Okay, so our second unit is pistil, megasporangium or ovule, and embryo sac. That is basically it is dealing with female part. Now, so as we know, this gynecium represents female reproductive part. Now this gynecium consists of carpel. Okay, now depending upon the number of carpel, it can be monocarpellary, bicarpellary, tricarpellary or multicarpellary. Okay, now when the number of carpel is more than 1, okay, 2, 3, 4, so these carpel can be free, that is referred as apocarpus, as in case of mycelia, or it can be fused, okay, and that is referred as syncarpus, as in case of papaver. Okay, apart from this, you have also if you remember in morphology there is two example, that is lotus and rose is apocarpus and mustard and tomato is syncarpus. Okay, now pistil has three parts, that is stigma, style and ovary. Okay, now stigma is landing platform for incoming pollen grain, that means pollen will land on a stigma. Okay, then style is connecting link between the stigma and ovary. And ovary is basal swollen portion which contains ovule, and these ovules are arranged on placenta, okay, which is a cushion like structure that we have discussed in morphology, that is placentation, arrangement of ovule within ovary on a cushion like structure, that is placenta. Okay, now these are the diagrams. Now these are important diagram that we will discuss. Okay, so this is your syncarpus condition, okay, that is observed in case of papaver. Apart from papaver, there are two more examples you have to remember, that is tomato and mustard. There are various examples, but these are the examples which are mentioned in NCERT. Then this is apocarpus condition which you observe in case of mycelia, that is champa. Apart from mycelia, you have also this, you will observe this in lotus and rose. Now then this is your ovule which is present within the ovary. Now the number of ovule is variable within the ovary. What you will observe, it can be 1, as in case of, these are the very important example. Okay, now number of ovule is 1 in case of wheat, paddy and mango. It is 1 in case of wheat, paddy and mango, and generally these plants are pollinated by wind. Okay, then it is many in case of papaya, watermelon and orchids. Okay, so you have to remember these examples, these are very important examples. Now now we will come to the structure of ovule. Now this is a typical anatropous ovule. This is anatropous ovule. Anatropous ovule means it shows curvature of 180 degree. Here curvature is of 180 degree, and curvature is such in manner that this funicle and the micropyle lies at the more or less same level. Okay, so ovule is a composite structure which consists of sporophytic tissue nucellus, which is diploid, and it is surrounded by protective envelope, that is outer and inner integument. Okay, so this nucellus will provide protection to this, this integument will provide protection to this nucellus, and within nucellus you have embryo sac, that is also referred as female gametophyte. Okay, now then there is funicle. It is a stalk-like structure through which this ovule is attached to placenta. Then the junction between this funicle and the body of ovule is referred as hilum. So hilum is junction between this funicle and body of ovule. So this is a structure of a typical ovule, and this integument will form an opening, and that opening is referred as micropyle, and this end is referred as micropylar end, and the end opposite to this micropylar end is referred as chalazal end or chalazal pole. So this is a typical ovule, a most common type of ovule. We call it anatropous ovule, okay, which is observed in angiosperms. Okay, now, okay, next topic is megasporogenesis. Okay, now, so what is megasporogenesis? So megasporogenesis is production of megaspore from megaspore mother cell in simple terms. Okay, so it is formation of megaspore from the megaspore mother cell. Now what happens? Cell of nucellus, which is located towards the micropylar end, becomes large in size, densely cytoplasmic with large size nucleus, and it acts as megaspore mother cell. And always remember, it is towards the micropylar end. Okay, large in size. Okay, now this will undergo meiosis. It will undergo meiosis. Now, as a result of meiosis, first meiosis 1 will take place, and as a result megaspore dyad is produced. Okay, and then meiosis 2 will take place. You have studied that in cell cycle and cell division, and as a result megaspore tetrad is produced. Now, out of these four megaspore, 3 will degenerate. Okay, 3 will degenerate, and one which is located towards the chalazal end. Suppose these are the 4 megaspores. Okay, so one which is this is micropylar end, and this is chalazal end. Okay, so one which is located towards the chalazal end remains functional, and these 3 will degenerate. Only one will remain functional. Why this happens? Because the vascular supply, that is supply for water, xylem and phloem, that is supply for water, mineral and food, will enter through the chalazal end. So supply for these 3 will cut off. So they will not get water, mineral and food. As a result, they will degenerate. Only this one will remain functional. Okay, so this is megasporogenesis, that is production of megaspore mother cell, megaspore from megaspore mother cell. Now, our next is development of female gametophyte. Okay, now female gametophyte is represented by embryo sac. Okay, so I have already discussed, out of 4 only one remains functional, and that functional is located towards the chalazal end. Now this functional megaspore, suppose this is your functional megaspore. So this functional megaspore will undergo 3 successive free nuclear mitotic division. That means division of nucleus is not followed by division of cytoplasm. So this is first, this is second, and this is third. So that results in formation of 8 nucleated structure. Okay, and this 8 nucleated structure will organize itself to form 7-celled 8 nucleated structure known as embryo sac. Okay, 7-celled 8 nucleated, very important question have been asked. 7-celled 8 nucleated. Okay, so we'll see through this diagram. Okay, sorry. So this is 3 successive free nuclear mitotic division. So there is formation of 8 nucleated structure, and now this 8 nucleated structure will organize itself to form embryo sac. Now out of these 4 nucleus, one will migrate towards the center, into the central cell. From lower side, one will migrate to the center, that is towards the central cell. These two will form polar nuclei, and the 3 which is present towards the micropolar end will organize itself to form egg apparatus, which consists of 2 synergids, okay, and 1 egg cell, okay. So egg and synergy together forms egg apparatus, okay. Then one from micropolar end and one from chalazal end migrate to the center to form polar nuclei, and this is the largest cell referred as central cell, and then 3 which is present towards the chalazal end organize itself to form antipodal cell. This is typical embryo sac development in angiosperm. It is referred as monosporic development, or it was first time reported in a plant referred as polygonum, and that's why it is also referred as polygonum type, okay. It is not there in NCERT, but you can remember this, okay. Now, so this is female gametophyte. Now, as I have discussed, this female gametophyte consists of 3 things, that is egg apparatus, central cell and antipodal cell. So every one have certain function. I will discuss that one by one, okay. So what are the functions, okay. Now, for antipodal cell, there is hardly any function. Generally, it is said to be involved in providing nutrition, okay. It provides nutrition to embryo sac. Generally, nutrition to embryo sac is provided nucellus, but the vascular supply enters through this chalazal end. That's why we say somehow they are involved in providing nutrition, but there is hardly any experimental evidence for that, but it is assumed that. Now, then this polar nuclei, 2 polar nuclei which is present in largest cell, that is central cell, later on develops into endosperm, okay. Now, then the important part, that is synergid and egg. We have 2 synergid, and towards the micropolar end of the synergid, one thing you can observe, this synergid and egg have opposite polarity. What do you mean by opposite polarity? Suppose this is your synergid, this is your filiform apparatus. So in case of synergid, nucleus is towards the micropolar end and vacuole is towards the chalazal end. Whereas in case of egg, what you will observe, vacuole is towards the micropolar end and nucleus is towards the chalazal end. So there is opposite polarity, not very important. Then we have filiform apparatus, which play very important role. First, it increases the surface area of absorption, okay. Then it guides the entry of pollen tube inside the embryo sac, okay. So it is very important question, which thing guides, or what is the function of, so one of the important function of filiform apparatus is it guides the entry of pollen tube inside the embryo sac. Then when pollen tube enters inside this embryo sac, one of the synergid will degenerate, okay, and what will happen, it will serve as a platform or seat for incoming pollen discharge. That means this pollen tube will rupture and it will release its content on the platform which is provided by degenerated synergid, okay. Now, apart from this which is there in NCERT, there is certain information you must know, because question can be asked from that part, okay. One is, wait a second, okay. One is, it is not there in NCERT, this is extra information, okay. One is, in some cases what happens, this funicles gets fused with body of ovule to form a ridge shaped structure which is referred as a raphe, okay. So raphe is when funicle gets fused with the body of ovule to form a ridge shaped structure. Then second, in some cases what happens, there is development of third integument which is referred as aril, okay. which is edible part in case of lychee. N number of time question have been asked from this. So aril is nothing but it is third integument and it is edible part of lychee. Then towards the micropallar end of this ovule, we have a structure referred as obturator. Now this obturator guides the entry of pollen tube inside the ovule. So entry of pollen tube inside the ovule is guided by obturator, okay? And second thing, entry of pollen tube inside the embryo sac is guided by filiform apparatus, okay? So obturator for entry into the ovule and filiform apparatus for entry into the embryo sac, okay? Then in case of castor, what you will observe in case of castor, sorry, cells of outer integument will proliferate. Proliferate means will starts dividing and forms white sugary structure, and this white sugary structure is referred as caruncle. Okay. Now what is the purpose of or function of this caruncle? This caruncle attracts ants because it is sugary in nature. So ant gets attracted to these seeds and it helps in dispersal of seed. So these are the extra information which is not there in NCERT, but it is important from exam point of view. Okay. So we are through with second unit.